I think 15 years ago, I could not use my landline and connect to the internet at the same time. About 10 years ago, this evil little wonderful thing was released, the iPhone. And that now is my portal to the internet. 3 years ago, I recall, a 1 gigabit service was really just a business service available to a business. And I think the price here in South Africa was over 100,000 rands a month. Today, we deliver it in a home to a homeowner for less than 2,000 rands a month. This growth is just absolutely phenomenal. The change in technology, it's all underpinned with advances that's been made at such a rapid pace that really this iPhone today has got more computing power than what NASA had at their disposal to put the man on the moon in 1969. It is just phenomenal. And this is all exponential, as we all know. It's an exponential change, but it doesn't necessarily feel like that to us, because we like these goldfish that sits on this curve, but we only look at it over a very short period of time. But what the change is happening around us is it's at phenomenal pace. And when we talk about the suburb of the future, we have the tendency to think that the suburb of the future is 20 years away. But the reality is it's probably 5, and maybe even less, maybe even 3 years away. And this wonderful, sexy stuff that we're doing, flaying fiber, that is really putting the arteries and the veins into the cities and to the suburbs today. That's going to pump the lifeblood, and it's pumping the lifeblood into the cities and to the suburbs. That's really going to enable some magical stuff to happen in the future, and it's already happening today. And that's going to happen because we're going to provide some abundant and prolific access to information to the suburbs, to the burbs, so to speak. And so what does this future look like? I think before we speak about the future, we need to think a little bit about what it looks like today. What does a city look like today? The city today is a very complex ecosystem of moving parts. It's infrastructure, it is citizens, it is networks, it consists of the economic hub of society. We have people that was born in the city, affluent, educated, making a living. We have people that have come in from rural areas, from the outskirts, fighting for survival, coming to the city to make a living for a better life for themselves and for their families. And it's a very complex mix of dynamics. And there's some politics that sometimes overlays it as well. And I think especially here in South Africa, we talk about smart cities and suburbs of the future. We need to realize that Johannesburg is not Sandton. And Cape Town is not Newlands. You know, Johannesburg is Sandton and Soweto. And Cape Town is Newlands and Langa. And if we really want to solve the cities of the future, we need to solve it for the city. We're not building just smart suburbs, we're building smart cities. And we therefore need to build a smart Sandton and a smart Soweto. And our industry is actually fantastically responsible for making some great progress in society, providing access to information, etc. But we're at risk, inadvertently, to contribute to the divide in our society. We're the most unequal society today in terms of income distribution. The way we think about it at the moment and how we behave is potentially contributing to that inequality by only focusing on the short-term capital gains, by making sure we're only connecting the affluent areas. And the gap that we create by creating information divide and connectivity divide is really, in today's day and age, really one of the most it's probably a terrible thing that we're doing. A child today that has unlimited access to the internet, where information is starting to equate increasingly more and more to education, versus one that does not have access to internet at all is potentially robbing some members of our society of their futures. So if we really want to solve this, the only way we can do this is by providing affordable and accessible and abundant internet to all the members of our society. Because if we don't do that, we'll leave some members of society behind. So how do we do that? The only way we believe that you could do that is by looking and building business models that are asking the right questions, whether it's possible to address it and to deliver our business models to all members of society. And charity doesn't cut it. Charity doesn't really help, because charity is not doesn't make it sustainable. It doesn't create the environment where we can go and scale it en masse. It'll help, it clearly helps, but it doesn't solve the bigger essential problem. And I think we need to ask questions on how we build models about not just providing internet access, but providing internet abundance. And really, for us, there's a fundamental difference between access and abundance. And the way we internally sort of talk about it is, think of a water well in a small rural town out there in the rural area. And every day, Cynthia takes a 5-liter can and walks to the well. And she collects her water, she jostles at the well, collects her 5 liters of water, and she walks the miles and miles back home, making sure she doesn't spill any. She gets home, probably takes half, washing myself, my family, the clothes, the other half for drinking water. And for a couple of days, that lasts, and look after it sparingly. This is a scarce resource. And this continues for years and years to come. And then one day, something happens that changes everything. She gets a tap. And the tap, at the turn of a faucet, you have this scarce resource suddenly all available to yourself. Your thinking changes instantly. Cynthia now thinks of, I can have a vegetable garden. I can produce surplus, take it to the market, sell, buy a goat, milk, bicycle, transport. And that abundance, we think, is essential. And access is not just the only essential part. It is to create that abundance. And if you look at where we are in society, the hotspots that's out there, prepaid data, they're all great. They're all needed, they're all necessary, etc. But what they do is they provide access. They don't solve the abundance problem. And they don't really change lives. The only way we're going to change lives is by providing abundance. So access, cool, abundance, great. So what we've decided to do is to try and take a view and seeing if fiber can solve some of these problems. And we're embarking on a pilot project into Alexandra. It's a township just outside Johannesburg. It's a suburb in Johannesburg, dare I say. And we're going to provide uncapped, unlimited internet at 89 rands a month. Abundance at the price of 2 Big Macs. So that's the objective. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it worth it? Sure. So that's our objective, and I think that should be our industry's objective too. You know, as part of what we do is to provide abundant access out there to communities. We talked about the small towns yesterday. That's the same type of problem that we need to try and solve. So we've been talking to the citizens and the residents of Alexandra, about 200 adults. Average income of a household in Alexandra is 2,500 rands a month. Every single adult that we spoke to spent more than 150 rands a month on prepaid data. But they're all Cynthias. Because it's not abundant, it's a small amount of data, that they're looking after sparingly every single day. And until that gets resolved, nothing changes. And the only way we change that is providing abundance, and that's what I think we will do, we're going to attempt to do, and that's what I think the whole industry needs to attempt to do. So, it's interesting, everybody understood the benefits of abundant data. They understand that my children need access to data for education. My teenagers need to learn. My youngsters that are just out of school need to start businesses, and maybe online helps. Advertise and market much more. It's all there. Prepared to pay. Prepared to pay what they can afford, but they're prepared to pay for that service, and it's incumbent on us to try and ask the right questions. Can we solve that problem by providing fiber to all communities? It is not just for the higher LSMs in our communities. So we'll be kicking off this project in November, going live in March next year. So hopefully next year when we stand here, either I'm going to be a lot grayer, for sure I am, but hopefully Alex will be transformed. Thanks. No. So Parkhurst was our pilot project in the leafy suburbs, and Alex is our step 2 in our ambition to try and create this connected South Africa. But just think about it. If we solve that, we can solve it for 35 million urbanized South Africans today. But if that works, then Lagos, Kigali, all of the African cities, urbanized areas, is really within range for fiber to the home. For the fiber to the home industry. And I can see all the suppliers licking their chops here. Man, come on, go, because we're going to sell you shovels and spades until you die. But these foundations that we're laying, and if we want to do it for our communities, for our countries, for our continent, etc., is really important, because these foundations are the foundations for the future cities that we're going to build one day, and it's important that we get that right. At all levels, all cities, secondary towns, and even the small towns. So what does the future look like? Now smart cities are really going to emerge. There's lots of innovation happening. I use Uber all the time. Lots of networks, interesting stuff happening, and innovations that disrupt markets. But a lot of these are really going to be so enhanced by intersecting those with cities that's got information and access to information and information networks that is ubiquitous, unlimited, high speed, that's really going to enhance and put those solutions on sort of, I don't know, on nitrogen. It's going to be super sexy. We don't know what the answers in this and the innovations are going to be, but we can see some of them already. From a safety perspective, imagine a city where authorities are alerted of a crime before it happens. We can do that today because with citywide fiber network, we can build a citywide integrated CCTV network with a feed that is overlaid with software, artificial intelligence, that spots anomalous behavior, alerts authorities to which it could be responded to instantly. How long do I think this is into the future? I think 18 months. 18 months, 24 months. We'll have citywide CCTV networks in high definition. Energy. Imagine a city, a suburb, a home, where efficient energy consumption is really just dependent on the sun and data. Now, we're blessed with sunshine here in South Africa. And we know that it's the only one really in the long term that is probably the key solution for our energy challenges of the future. But by bringing the communication network and overlaying that with the energy network, where your home is connected to the commercial building out there, your geyser is connected to the pool pump, to your lights, etc., and your communication network orchestrates the efficient use of energy across this whole ecosystem. This is 5 years away, not 20. I'll tell you 5 years away. Traffic. Man, imagine never to be stuck in a traffic jam. Time spent from A to B, how inefficient we are today. The cities are urbanizing very quickly, and therefore we're getting very congested. The capital is extremely inefficient across the whole traffic and the transportation systems in our cities. And imagine having these ubiquitous information highways overlapping with autonomous transportation networks. How far away is that? I don't know. 5 years, 10 years? Now, my youngster, Maya, I bought a car a couple of weeks ago. She's 9. Now she's sitting there with me, and she's daydreaming, very excited. And she's daydreaming what her first car is going to be. Yeah? No, what's the first car that Daddy's going to buy her? It's going to be. And I didn't want to burst her bubble while she's daydreaming, but the reality is that Maya will probably not need a driver's license, and she probably will never own a car, well, because I won't buy it for her, but she would not need to own a car. And it feels like it's far away, but in reality, in 10 years' time, if Andile lives in San Francisco, how quickly the self-driving vehicle phenomenon is taking form, and that really is all going to be supported by the information highways that we lay, which could be overlaid. So I think a factor of the matter is that without this rolling out of communication networks like we are, and fiber directly or even indirectly, because we will enable all of the communication networks one day, the cities and the suburbs are not going to really be cities of the future if we don't lay it out, roll it out efficiently, and quickly, and also to everywhere in our communities. So we've got this wonderful word in South Africa for the foreign. I see some of my Swedish friends here. There's a word called Ubuntu in South Africa, which is a wonderful word. Is that my humanity is encapsulated in your humanity. I am who I am by looking through you. And I think we have an opportunity here, because as an industry, we have a societal impact which we do not really recognize today. What we do today would potentially have ramifications, 10, 20, transgenerational, for a Burki that's a difficult, transgenerational change, which we can affect by doing some of the stuff and thinking about it the right way today, will have an impact generations from today, if we just think about it the right way. And in the spirit of Ubuntu. We can definitely affect the trajectory of society and of our cities, importantly. So we think it's time that everybody thinks about business models, not just for the short-term gain, especially where we work in an industry that is potentially so influential on the future, and really look at the legacy that we're going to leave as an industry and as businesses out there. And it is in our hands to lay the foundations for the suburbs and the cities and the societies of tomorrow. And that's a very important task, and we need to step up to the plate. Thank you.